Uh, and Wooly, let me ask you a question. This is a genuine, like, work feasibility question that I've been wrestling with for weeks. And I'm going to put it up to a vote, but I would like your opinion before I do so. I'm going to be streaming Yakuza 7. Yakuza is obviously a very, very Japanese video game series. However, in the courses of me streaming these games, both 6 and Kiwami and all that, I've had a long back and forth with people who are asking, can you please use the dub instead of the subtitle Japanese? Because there is just so much goddamn dialogue. And if anybody is doing anything but watching the screen the whole time, they're gonna miss it.
Yeah, I hate
on
this.
top of that,
I don't like this.
On top of that, last night or 2 nights ago, I saw a take that I had never considered, which was, I live in Australia. I literally can't read the subtitles because I watch your stream at 360p. Like, it's just not an option.
Okay.
So, with Yakuza 7 coming out, and I don't know if you saw, but they got Matt Mercer to do Majima. He does a pretty decent Majima. They got Kiryu's original Yakuza 1 voice actor back.
Wow.
Which is crazy. I'm like, do I take it easy on the people who would otherwise not be staring ahead and paying attention? But I say this, and then the blowback comes, but it's Yakuza!
So okay. Here, I've been through this a couple times. I've been through this with, obviously, Danganronpa. I've been through this with Naruto. I've been through this with, 13 Sentinels, even, most recently.
Yeah.
It is a constant debate, and it is a very, very hard one. Now, what I kind of have to do is put it to a series of questions, because the answer is honestly depending on, like, almost like a little flow chart. So, first question is this a new entry in a franchise that you have been into for a long time?
Right.
And if so, have you experienced the franchise in a particular way for yourself personally, right? Because if you have played every other Yakuza game, and your personal experience in every other Yakuza game has been to play it in Japanese, then that, to me, immediately overrides any other questions. Because you experiencing the game for yourself for the first time should be the way that you would enjoy it.
All right. Well, let me take that point and nullify it, because I'll be honest, I'm curious.
Okay. Step 2.
I'm genuinely curious.
Step 2 is, if that doesn't exist, if it's not that game, if you don't have a history that matters to you with it, then second is it a good dub? Right? Can you confirm whether or not the dub is good, or better yet,
the dub was excellent.
13 Sentinels is impeccable. Right?
A+. 13 Sentinels is A+ for sure.
What I have ended up deferring to is, if the dub is good, and it's the first time we're all experiencing this, I will go dub. Unless I have personal history with the franchise in Japanese, in which case that matters more to me. And if the dub is shit, then we just don't do that.
All right. So this solidifies the decision that I had already made prior to this, which was, I will put it up to a vote. So if you want to vote on the language options and the Yakuza 7 LP, show up to my stream tomorrow at around 7:30, 7 o'clock. And I will use the Twitch poll feature, which I discovered a few weeks ago, where you can just poll people in the Twitch chat. However, it will not be a 50-50 poll. I have a mental number that subs have to clear that is not 50% for me to put subs on and keep them on, because I genuinely believe that in almost every situation, playing a game in English, which is the default language of 99% of the people who are going to be watching me, is probably for the best.
Stop the count!
Woolie, I hate to break it to you, but I brought this up a couple days ago when I originally started this thing. That joke was made. You're too late.
Oh, boy.
I promise that no matter what happened, that I would abide by the legal votes cast in my Twitch poll.
Subs won by a lot!
Unless it went against the way that I wanted, at which point I would stop the count and just declare the winner immediately.
Click here to find out about Twitter's integrity of subs versus dubs. Hey, listen, it's a rough one because, you know, whenever it's gone either way, there's been just anger on either side, right?
Man.
I've seen people say, you know, basically, yes, I know you're playing it for yourself for the first time, and this is a series that you're into, but you're playing for an audience, therefore that should matter more. And I just disagree with that. I think that, like, the way, if I have a personal history with something and I'm going into this, like, that's a part of what I'm streaming this for, what I'm recording it for. And I think
it will change the energy of you.
You lose something personally with your connection if I have to listen to Akio, who's amazing, instead of David Hayter, who I'm connected to through this franchise. So it just, you know, and I had to explain this exhaustingly to the point that I got pretty annoying about it probably to a lot of people with Naruto, because when I popped in Ultimate Ninja Storm and went straight to Japanese, a lot of people were like, what the fuck, right? Because they had watched and grown up with Naruto dubbed on Toonami.
How could you be a weeaboo about this ninja anime?
And, like, they're like, what? Because they'd all watched it on Cartoon Network. And I'm like, I don't know. I watched it in Japanese as it came out, and that's the sounds that I'm associating every character with. It's always been that way to me. I caught memes of the English stuff, but, you know, me bothering to go back to this series is, I have a connection to the Japanese voices. That's what I know, you know? And you just can't really win either way. But that flowchart, I think, is the most reasonable thing you can do. And if people are still upset with the results, then
So I'm actually in a place where I'm very curious about the dub. Like I like on an almost academic thing. Like I have heard these voice actors for a long time. It will not kill me to hear a different take on them, especially since if you are a person who played the Yakuza games from the beginning, you played the first one in English with a dub, a hilariously overcast dub that was absurd and kind of terrible.
Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill and Michael Madsen and tons of A-listers. But we're like, you know what I mean by overcast? Like, you didn't need Michael Madsen. You really didn't.
No,
you could have had
not. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually, so like we can take me out of it because I could go either way. For me, it's just like, I just want to know what would actually be best for the audience. And I am concerned that when you ask the people don't actually know what they want. They'll tell you what they want, but I'm always reminded of the comment you and I got on some, hey guys, what LP do you want to see? Only to say, like, I'm totally the guy who would have voted for this game and then watched one episode and then never watched it again.
Because I went off to get it, yeah. You do have to also, you take into account that, like, some people want dub because they just So most of the people that would want dub, I would imagine, would want it to just be easy to minimize. But some people do want it because they just prefer that in their media.
There is a legitimate reason to go dub from a functionality perspective in the Yakuza series that I'm very tempted to. And this is the idea that made me think right away.
Crowds,
and it's crowd.
Yeah. Crowds.
There's so much untranslated dialogue in those games.
Yep.
There's so much fucking background chatter that is just not. Now, I bet the dub doesn't actually translate most of that.
And
I bet it's actually just background Japanese people.
And as the guy who was sitting there assessing whether or not 3 could translate the crowd chatter, I made a decision that no, it would not be possible without ridiculous upsizing of the team. I walked down the street and went, yeah, fuck that. That doesn't seem possible, you know?
So yeah, I'm torn. It's tough. This is the toughest one because 13 Sentinels, I felt nothing. Like it was like, oh yeah, dub. No, I'll dub all the way. Vanillaware's voice acting people that they get, they're always great. This is a visual novel, so fuck playing a visual novel in a language that I don't speak. That's ridiculous. But Yakuza is like literally the most Japanese series that exists. It is the one that would lose the most je ne sais quoi from being divorced from its original language.
How rad would it be if you could pull a set your characters by language by character and just have all the main characters talk Japanese but the crowd speaks English?
That would be so weird. It's also fascinating to me because the dub for Judgment was apparently quite good, but the dub for 7 is going above and beyond. Do you see the interview with the localizers where they had to change that English translation cutscene to make sense in Japanese in English?
I didn't hear about it.
So it was really interesting. There's a side quest where Ichiban's walking down the street and sees a white guy. And the white guy appears to be like a German or maybe an American tourist, and he's asking him in English, "Hello, what way to the train station?" And in Japanese, Ichiban goes, "Oh, America des," or oh shit, English. And in English, Ichiban stops, looks at the camera, goes, "Oh shit, English," gives a really slow thumbs up, and then turns back to the scene. And I'm like, okay, they're putting that level of work into this. They're putting the level of work in which they're recording the voice actors singing the goddamn karaoke songs in English. All of them. That's impressive. I kind of want to check that out.
Yeah, you don't want to miss out on "Goodbye, Jojo." Yeah,
you don't want to miss out on that. You don't want to miss out on the Yakuza 0 one, which was, "Hey, boy." I was just like, what? Is that supposed to be English, like British English? Holy shit.
Shito. You need those.
You don't want to miss out on Gary Buster Holmes' broken Japanese. But at the same time, it's tough. It's really tough. This is a very interesting problem that only exists in this incredibly specific niche of content.
I think, again, that your personal history is weighted towards the result here. And, it is a one of those things where you just gotta kind of. I mean, I remember there was a point in Naruto where I ended up switching it midway, just to see.
Yeah.
And then I switched it back. I messed around in Sekiro. Nope, not Sekiro. Ghost of Tsushima. In Ghost of Tsushima.
Okay, that's pretty funny.
I started
Those are different.
And then switched and tried it out, and then we rolled with English for a bit, and then rolled back. So I definitely was willing to like just see how it felt and see what the mood was. And you know, in that it definitely was I think a case of like, oh, yo, the voices are pretty good here. You know, they're doing a good job. But yeah, I definitely think that it matters a lot less if you have no attachment and you're playing a game for the first time. You know, you can go either way you feel on that, and give the dub a chance if it's a good one, especially. But you know, when there's a history, to me at least, that takes precedent.
Hey, let me ask you a different question, and this might be specific to me. So I haven't finished Judgment. I should probably finish Judgment. But Judgment, I was playing with the sub in the Japanese language, and I ran into a very serious problem, which was, in my personal time, when I play a game that's subtitled and it's in Japanese, oftentimes I don't actually hear 80% of the dialogue because subtitles come up instantly and goes immediately, and I almost always cut the characters off with the X button once they're finished saying the first sentence.
I don't do that at all. I listen to the Japanese voice acting. I listen to it
because like all I can think of is like, yeah, I already know what you're gonna say for the rest of the sentence.
Yeah,
I just get to the next one.
No. Personally, I like to hear the rest of the line. Also, like I like catching little verbal things that they do, like if they're using an old school, you know, type of language, if the character has particular verbal habits that are not coming through in the translation. There's been a couple times where I've been listening, and Reggie's pretty good at this too, because he's pretty good at you know, basic Japanese, and we'll hear things and go like, ooh, that's not what you said at all. You said something very different from what the translation is there. And I like catching these little bits and details.
When I played Persona on stream, it was the same thing. It's like, you know, Persona dialogue boxes are usually like 2 sentences, one shorter sentence and one longer sentence. Like, I never heard the last 5 words in what anyone said, because it was like, I like the instant the box came up, I saw and knew the whole sentence. And now I'm just sitting there like, just get on with it, man.
Yeah, no, for me, there's multiple reasons, man. It's like, it's not just like hearing a good voice actor, and like I when I hear someone doing a good job, I like to hear how they record it. But it's also just like, for example, so one of the characters in 13 Sentinels is someone who speaks with an old style Japanese that is not modern parlance, and it doesn't come through in English, but you would pick it up in Japanese, you know, and the eras, I think, like are things where like where you can hear the difference between those things. If you can catch them, I think are pretty interesting. I like that stuff, you know.
I'm tempted to just start turning subtitles off on any game that's in English.
I've even paused the scroll to go back to a line or two to hear them say it again, you know. So
I'm tempted to just turn off subtitles entirely, because if the subtitles aren't there and I don't know what they're going to say, I'm way more interested in them actually saying it. But when I can see the whole sentence, then I don't need you to actually say it.
I think that's a bad idea.
I read
for
it
two
already.
Reasons. I think that's bad for 2 reasons. Well, one, you've played the whole franchise with subs on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's bad because, and again, like, you are not me, certainly. So, you know, we're all different with this. But I think even though you're better at, like, catching things, or you're better at not missing things, you'd probably still end up missing some things if you have a thought.
And I should mention to those, I would never turn subtitles off for anything that I would broadcast, because yeah, y'all need it. Just if you're streaming a game, you put the fucking subtitles on.
You have to, especially if you're going to make a comment over someone that's talking.
Oh yeah, it's absurd. It's totally absurd.
You mean personally in your off time?
I mean personally, like I absolutely adored Nier Automata and the way that they spaced out their text.
Mm-hmm.
It made such a big deal to me. It was such a big difference that there was no reason for me to ever skip ahead because the subtitles never like jumped ahead to the ends of conversations.
Mm-hmm. And that's a good example.
Soma did something very similar.
Nier is a series that is English to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in both cases with the fucking phenomenal dubs. So now the history to me with that franchise is English.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but not every game is going to have that care for how the subtitles are displayed.
I feel like even though we're decades out of like the origin of us arguing about subs versus dubs, it's actually gotten way more complicated.
I did not realize the era we hit when dubs became average decent, because my era of anime was just, these are always unwatchable.
Don't bother at all.
That's how much of an old head, you know, I'm coming in with the, no, we just don't do that. It sucks. Period. And then, yeah, the like Toonami era kind of came and we hit that level of like, no, they've been importing and dubbing and putting on TV a bunch of shit for a while now and have been getting talented people to do it. And like that came and went because obviously, you know, like I'm not watching that in Canada. So I just continued on the like, you know, watch the original shit as it gets released pattern. So much surprise, you know.
Yeah, it's just so frustrating to me because like you're playing a game and your subtitles are on, and most games the subtitles are like entire I guess I would call a conversation block. They're not a sentence. They're not a phrase.
Mm-hmm.
They're like 3 or 4 lines of text, which represents maybe a full minute of talking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so weird.
It makes me feel like I'm like I have the script to a play, and I'm just waiting for the actors to get to the good parts.
And you're not like, you don't really care about how they're delivering it.
No. Not most of the time, anyway. And like, you know, big moments.
I do. So that's I guess the diff, you know. But with anime though, outside of outside of video games, it feels so weird to be in a place where like, because of when I watched a lot of these shows, like stuff that has come and been incredibly well dubbed in my brain is now different from what most people have heard, because for example, a great like one key is Cowboy fucking Bebop to me is Japanese. That's how I watched it, and that's how everyone I knew watched it, and we all talked about it and were into it in Japanese at the time, not airing on TV. It was not on TV. Everyone that knows it now, a lot of this generation that listens to us, that we're talking to, have all watched it on television. So they've all heard Steve Blum.
I really don't think that is a discussion of then versus now, because I saw that almost immediately after it came out dubbed.
The Steve Blum job is like one of those amazingly it's one of those like classics where it's like he did a fucking great job with it that people to this day still talk about. But I only watched the original as it was, and you know, those are the characters in my head. I hear the whole thing in Japanese. I hear Vicious as Norio Wakamoto, you know.
Always with Norio.
Oreos with Norio Wakama. Yeah, well, he did a good job.
I really feel
Uh,
like, hey, do you want to know whether or not Wooly prefers the sub or the dub? Just look at the
no,
cast list and see if Norio
I
Wakamoto's on
questioned
there.
whether or not I should even bring it up just because of this, but whatever. He was in it. He did a good job. That's not the point. Trigun.
Do you love him? Do you kiss on him on his bum?
Trigun had Johnny Young Bosch absolutely killing it, doing an incredible job as Vash the Stampede, and yet still my first time watching the series was in Japanese, you know. So it's weird, but like I'm definitely on the outside with a lot of these older shows now that are like synonymous with a lot of the audience with the dub. And I definitely realize that. I'm not trying to fucking, you know, start any arguments about what versus what. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just telling people what I happen to do.
I'll start a fucking argument. I'll start an argument right the fuck now. An argument that no one will have.
I'm just saying what I did.
Coolie doesn't exist in languages other than English.
I would say Golden Boy is fucking better in English.
I should probably watch Golden Boy.
Golden Boy's better in English. It's just that's, you know, there are occasionally dubs out there where you're like, yeah, no, you took the crown, you know.
Ghost Stories is better in English. Way better.
I've mentioned it before. Excel Saga is such a commendable effort that it's worth your time to catch the English on it, because
Really?
the difficulty of the show is all rambling nonsense, and it's full of pop culture jokes that are very Japanese, and they actually figured out how to translate it and the jokes to be relevant in English. They figured it out.
Great.
Yeah. So, you know, shit like that is you know, and yeah, of course, and then third on that list of like classics that are known in English as another Steve Blum joint. Samurai Champloo is Japanese in my head. That's how I watched it. That's the show I know. I know Japanese Mugen. I know the whole like that's it's not a dubbed thing to me, you know. So,
hey, does this mean if I play Yakuza 7 in English that I can divorce and wash myself of some of your ambient weeaboo stinky smell? Will some of it come off?
Look, man, I'm not out here saying that the way I did things is the way other people got to do things. So, you know, the indignation at me hearing it differently from the way other people have, I don't care. That's not trying to tell you to go change the way you did things in the past. I'm just saying it's what I did, you know?
I think the irony of that, Wooly, is that I am always literally doing exactly that.
I don't give a fuck about, like, trying to convince someone to go say, oh, the Japanese is better. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just relaying the fact that I happened to watch it that way a really early ass time ago. So, also, it really helps to be in the wall of Quebec where you're not even going to accidentally one day turn on Toonami and catch a random episode of something dubbed.
Not even a once.
Because a lot of the time, even if you didn't watch the thing or you already did watch it, you'd see a thing on TV at some point. You'd be like, oh, look, it's some English anime. That's not a thing that was happening here. So I didn't even come across it that way. So, you know, I watched it as it came out, and then I moved on and
I watched
didn't catch the TV
Man
stuff.
Blade in English when it was called Techno Man.
Mm-hmm.
That shit was terrible. But I fucking love Man Blade, but
yeah, it's like old head anime, you know? I don't know what to say. It's like we're fucking, you know, like started trying to had to track down good shit and watch it a decade before, you know, like TV caught on to what was worth watching. So a whole lot of the time.
Hey, you want to get fucking, you want to get super controversial.
Mhm.
I genuinely believe that the dub is far superior in Sailor Moon than it is the sub. I think Meatball Head and Serena's like dumb shit sass and Sailor Mercury yelling at fucking one of Barrel's henchmen to go bleach his roots and all that shit is fucking killer. And it's not accurate. It's crazy inaccurate. It's like a different story.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Characters get straight gender swapped. I don't even know the Japanese on Sailor Moon. I feel like I've seen, again, the clips and then the Pegasus and all that weird shit, but I couldn't put together the sounds of their voices because all I hear is English in my head.
I was totally sold on it when I saw a comparison between when Serena slash Usagi finds out that who the identity of Tuxedo Mask, in which he goes, "I'm Tuxedo Mask," and in Japanese she's like, you know, equivalent like, "Oh my god, I can't believe it! He really was Tuxedo Mask all along. Wow!" And in English, it starts with "No way," and then he just pulls the rose out and is hit with this deadpan like, "Oh my god, he really is Tuxedo Mask. I can't believe it." Like almost Teen Girl Squad. It sounds like it should have been next to Sabrina the Teenage Witch on fucking prime time on ABC. It's incredible.
The weirdest one to get used to, I think, was English Street Fighter. English Street Fighter took some fucking time.
I never got used to it, I'll be honest.
And thank God the options to change, you know, the cast where they should be exist. Because look, man, we all grew up hearing those like what? It's weird. It's weird, but you know, I think it kind of just comes down to a like character by character basis. You know.
You know what series I
like
want
Kyle is doing a good job, but I kind of just want Ryu to be Japanese because that's what I've, you know, grown with.
We're talking a lot about subtitling and languages and dubbings, and I want to give a big old golf clap to a noble effort that achieves the worst of all worlds in this conversation, and that is Tekken.
Tekken is the best.
Tekken achieves the best and worst of all permutations of this argument. It's incredible.
I was waiting to finish talking about Street Fighter to then move into the fact that Tekken nails it by having a canon language spoken canon by the character, and that's what they speak, and this is it. If you're from a place, you speak their language. Yes.
And they all only speak one language?
They all
just talk to each other in it?
They all have a Babel fish in their ears, but they speak the language of the country they come from.
In fights with taunts, aces, in anything else, it is a nightmare dreamscape. It is so baffling. It is, dude. It is so confusing.
I like the fact that Shaheen is there. You know what I mean, doing his thing, and it's not just a like what's his name Rashid is cool, great character.
Yeah,
but like everyone speaking their own language, I feel adds a lot to it. It adds a lot of like international personality and flavor.
It has this bizarre situation in Tekken where it makes everyone look like an asshole nationalist, because the only way any of it works is that they can all speak like 10 languages. They just refuse to answer anyone in anything but their native language.
I don't interpret people speaking their languages in that way like that at all. I don't not like that's a weird way to see it, and I completely don't at all see that because I worked with French bosses and people on my team that were French where I spoke English and they spoke French and we communicated just fine. I've done that
Totally,
before.
and that is almost unique to Montreal. That is a really bizarre situation, honestly.
But as someone who has done that and who has regularly flipped on the switch and just we both are going, hey, I'm going to speak when I'm comfortable, you're going to speak your comfort, and then we're just going to do it, and like it was fine. Seeing that in Tekken, it's like, yeah, it makes no sense that they all understand everybody, but it doesn't seem like there's a weird intention behind it.
Yeah, Lars is like, I'm gonna speak Swedish. Gods be damned that no one I'm talking to in this room may or may not be able to speak Swedish.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bork it up.
I love it. I think it's great.
It's a weird place.
It's a land where everyone has a Babel fish, and that's what it is. You know.
Oh God, Lars does speak Japanese. Why does Lars speak Japanese?
Wasn't he
Isn't
like
he
adopted
Swedish?
though?
Oh, I can't remember. Tekken's such a mess with the story. Is there a story anymore?
There was
Buddy,
a whole movie, and you know.
I know. I watched it.
Yeah.
I think we recorded us watching it. I don't remember. Come on, buddy. Come on.
Anyway, I'm down with Tekken's like international voice acting. I think that's fucking sick. I love it.